Hello everyone and welcome back to JeremyTiki Plays Sonic 2. We were talking about game mechanics last time. I said that I think Sonic 2 does a really good job of teaching you how to play the game without holding your hand through the entire thing. I think the chemical plant is a good way of teaching you about momentum without actually holding your hand, and this stage is all about teaching you how Sonic controls and his spin ball whenever he jumps and whenever he does the spin dash like this. This stage has a lot of really good examples for that, or the spin ball mechanic, that is, because it uses a lot of it uses this casino motif specifically with things like this, where it teaches you how Sonic moves quickly in the ball and how he controls when he's in the air, how he reacts to whenever he hits a gentle slope, and how Sonic reacts when he's hit by things like this. For instance, these panels at the bottom here, these metal panels, they don't appear anywhere else in the game, just on this single stage. Because the reasoning, I think it is, at least, is it teaches you to look at the object you're about to hit and to reason about which way it's going to launch you before you actually hit it. So from this you can tell whenever you hit it, it's going to hit you either left or right depending on which side you bounce on, depending on which side you hit. And from that you can kind of reason where you're going to land. And even if it's not going to land you on the correct side that you want to be on, you can still control Sonic slightly in midair to try and get to the side you're aiming for. And then there's things like this, where it teaches you how Sonic gains momentum in the spin ball just by lobbing himself back and forth. And like I said, it's just kind of like the perfect stage to teach you all of the spin ball mechanics, while keeping it nice and friendly and not punishing you for not doing well and not knowing how to play the spin ball mechanics, but at the same time keeping it interesting enough so that even people who do not understand how the mechanics work are interested enough in playing, but keeping it easy enough for people who don't understand how the mechanic works to still have a good time and try to learn something too. Because with all those metal panels, by the end of the game, if you didn't understand how the spin ball mechanic works and how your hitboxes and everything work bouncing off of them, you're going to understand by the end of this stage, because it just forces you to immerse yourself in that the entire time. Especially whenever it presents you with stages like this, where it wants you to get to the higher area by using these paddles to knock yourself higher. And if you were any good of a player, unlike me, who's a terrible player, you would be able to do it pretty easily. So like I said, it teaches you how to do it by keeping it nice and easy, but at the same time teaching you how to do it in-game without holding your hand the entire time. And I think I talked about this in the previous recording session that won't actually go up because I didn't record it. But a lot of games seem to have a problem finding that nice mid-balance that I think Sonic 2 kind of hit, which is teaching you how to play the game and teaching you the more detailed mechanics of the game without actually holding your hand and explaining them, like, oh, press A and you'll jump 2 meters in the air, or if you press down and A at the same time, you'll gain speed with this. And see, like, nobody wants to know that. They want to get a feel for it, and not every game's good at doing that. I mean, they'll have like little tutorials where it literally stops the game, stops your immersion in the game to explain how a mechanic works. That's not really great game design. Whereas other games like Mega Man X and Sonic 2 kind of teach you how these mechanics work at the same time that you're actually playing the game. And like I said, this is a perfect example of how to do it, because you're learning how Sonic controls in midair through really long heighted jumps like this, but it's not doing it in a way where if you can't control it well enough, you're immediately going to fail the stage and not enjoy the stage. It's doing it in a way that teaches you and rewards you for being good, but doesn't necessarily punish you for not being good. So like I said, I think it's just one of the most perfect ways to teach game mechanics without being obsessively hard. And without even making people realize that you're teaching them the game mechanics. Because for most people, this just feels like playing the game. They wouldn't even really notice that they're picking up this new game mechanic. They're just trying to get through the level. So like I said, I think this is just an absolutely brilliant aspect for game design. Because it's just so perfectly done, at least in my opinion. And if you get good enough, you can just completely bounce through the stage like that, and not even ever really have to think about it. And that's really what you want to strive for when you're trying to make a game, is to make a tutorial that doesn't feel like a tutorial. Make something that teaches the player how to play, but doesn't stop everything, and that doesn't stop the entire game and be like, oh, you know, to do this you have to do X, Y, and Z in this particular order, and stuff like that, because like I said, nobody wants to do that. That's not interesting, that's not good gameplay, it's not good game design, and it's not fun. But certain games like Sonic 2 and Mega Man X just absolutely hit it on the head. And this is the perfect example here, because this area right here is kind of like the final test, because the next area that we're moving on to is one more pinball game and then the boss area. But this area is perfect because if you can't control the way you bounce perfectly, you can't get through this area. It keeps knocking you back out. And I'm purposely holding myself up here to show you, but it's kind of like a final test to see if you really mastered how Sonic collides with things and how he bounces off of different aspects of the world around him. And if you haven't mastered that well enough, it just simply won't let you through. I hate to keep going back to this example, but whenever I was a kid, whenever I was like 7 or 8 playing this was the absolute worst part of the level for me, because I had such a terribly hard time getting through it. Now I'm a little bit older and I kind of understand the mechanics a lot better, so it's much easier to get back and forth through it, so I can goof off here for a few minutes using it as an example. But it's kind of like a litmus test to see if you really understand the mechanic they're trying to teach in this level. Just like last stage's boss battle was like that, where if you didn't understand how hitboxes work, you would just get completely screwed by Robotnik on that one. And this is kind of, like I said, this is kind of like the litmus test for this level. The boss battle does this to an amazing degree too. If you've ever played this level, or played this boss that we're getting to here in about 2 minutes, it's another perfect example of exactly what I was talking about. The boss battle is amazingly good because it's another U-shaped area like this with just this. This is all there is to fight Robotnik, so you have to understand how, if you don't cheat the game like I did there, you have to really understand how Sonic's spinball mechanic works to be able to do damage to Robotnik at all. And if you don't understand it, you'll never be able to do any damage to him at all. He'll just completely wreck you the entire time. So like I said, I think this stage is all about teaching the player how to use the spinball mechanics correctly, and making sure they understand that before they leave. And like I said, again, it's just my opinion, I hate to keep harping on it, but I think this is absolutely brilliant game design. It's just almost perfect in the way it's put out, and you learn all of this stuff without even thinking about it. Because I'm sure if you've clicked on this video, the entire reason you are looking at this series is because you played Sonic 2 as a kid. And if you were like me, you never even realized that while you were playing the stage, you were learning these kind of detailed, intimate mechanics about the stage. It's just really interesting to me. Alright, now this stage, I haven't worked out anything kind of like I did with Chemical Plant. I haven't really played this one as much as I have those 3 sets of stages there. But it kind of introduces a couple interesting new mechanics like that, but nothing really groundbreaking. I feel like this is probably more of a stage it's kind of like intermediate Green Hill Zone, where it's not really introducing any kind of new, hard to understand mechanics. It's just kind of testing to see if you understand everything that you've learned in the last couple stages, and making sure you understand how to mix them together. So it's kind of like a making sure you got everything, kind of like a midterm exam. Just saying, we introduced all of these neat new mechanics. Do you understand how they work? And if you don't, of course, you won't be able to get through this section. But, ooh, shit. Like, for example, looking before you jump into shit, like you should have learned in, like you should have learned in Chemical Plant Zone. Because if you don't look before you jump into shit, you drown. And clearly I didn't learn that lesson carefully enough. Ooh. But, that's kind of what I think about this episode, is it's more kind of like a midterm. Making sure you get how everything fits together. Because like I said, there's not really... Oh, shit. Clearly, whatever they were trying to teach, I didn't get. Because I am just getting screwed on this stage now. But yeah, this stage doesn't really introduce any kind of new, interesting mechanics like the other stages did. It's kind of plain, and this is really the most interesting thing it does. It does another... Oh, shit. It does another kind of like racy aspect, where you have to kind of race to the top. But I actually think that's in the next stage, actually, not this one. Interesting. Alright. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode, guys. If you like this and you like my commentary and game analysis, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be posting the rest of these videos before I move on to Sonic 3. And we'll be talking more about what Sonic 3 does right and wrong, and we'll be talking more about what Sonic 2 does right and wrong. So if you... Oh, excuse me. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in